The first war crimes trial since Moscow's invasion of Ukraine gets underway today in Kyiv. Ukrainian prosecutors accuse a 21-year-old Russian soldier of fatally shooting a 62-year-old unarmed civilian. If convicted, the defendant faces a life sentence. It's just one of thousands of alleged war crimes that have been documented so far.
Tonight, in a story first reported by the Wall Street Journal, investigators now believe the 737 that slammed into a mountain in China last March was deliberately crashed. Sources confirming to ABC News that officials analyzing the flight data say it clearly points to someone in the cockpit intentionally pushing the plane into a fatal nosedive. All 132 people on board were killed. Experts also cite evidence that the plane's landing gear was never deployed and the flaps were not engaged, both of which would have happened if the pilot or co-pilot was trying to land the plane. Investigators believe the near vertical descent, as seen in this video, would have required intentional force. According to officials, investigators also looked into the personal life and background of one of the pilots and believe he may have been struggling through certain issues that remain undisclosed right before the crash.
The fever outbreak in North Korea is showing no sign of slowing down. It reported over 232,000 new cases on Tuesday, with 6 more deaths. That brings the total to over 1.7 million and 62 deaths as of 6 p.m. Tuesday. The state-run Korean Central News Agency said Wednesday that North Korean leader Kim Jong-un discussed ways to tackle the virus nationwide during a Politburo meeting. There, Kim again criticized his leading officials for failing to deal with the outbreak in its early stages, therefore revealing the North's vulnerabilities. North Korea's ambassador to Russia, Shin Hong-chul, met on Tuesday with Russia's Deputy Foreign Minister Igor Morgulov in Moscow. They discussed ways to contain the virus as well as other bilateral issues.
Rescue workers in Burkina Faso have found no survivors in a refuge chamber deep inside a flooded zinc mine, the government said on Tuesday. That announcement all but extinguishes hope that 8 missing miners could still be found alive after a month. The Pacoa mine, owned by Canada's Trevely Mining Corporation, was abruptly submerged on April 16th. Torrential rain had unexpectedly fallen during the country's dry season. There had been some hope that the missing men might have reached the refuge chamber, which is stocked with food and water. But on Tuesday, the Burkinabe government's information service said the chamber had been opened and was unfortunately empty.
Kinshasa said Tuesday evening that it was premature to withdraw Ugandan troops present in the DRC to fight the ADF rebel group, stressing that such a decision, mentioned by Ugandan military officers during the day, was up to the heads of the two states. In a tweet, the head of the Ugandan army, General Muhoozi Kainerugaba, said that the operation launched jointly with the Congolese army at the end of November to fight the Allied Democratic Forces rebels was to last 6 months and will therefore end on May 31st, unless otherwise instructed. However, in the second message on Twitter, he then clarified that the operation will continue even for another 6 months if both Presidents Museveni and Tshisekedi decide to extend it.
Zimbabwe is trying to enlist the support of the European Union to sell off its stockpile of ivory, a haul estimated to be worth around $600 million. The old tusks have been acquired through culling, natural death, and mostly through seizure of the proceeds of poaching. The EU ambassadors were taken on a tour of the vaults in Harare, and the Zimbabwe Parks and Wildlife Management Authority head told them they would use the money made in selling the tusks to benefit local communities living around wildlife conservancies.
Tonight, new video of a UFO shown to lawmakers in Congress, raising more questions than answers.
I do not have an explanation for what this specific object is.
The footage, recorded from a fighter pilot's cell phone, capturing a few frames of a metallic object.
UAPs are unexplained, it's true, but they are real. They need to be investigated, and many threats they pose need to be mitigated.
Pentagon officials using the video during a congressional hearing as an illustration of how hard it is to determine what the objects actually are. Last year, the Pentagon releasing a report looking into more than 140 cases of what they called unidentified aerial phenomena. Today, Pentagon officials said at least 18 cases included sensor data showing the objects behaving in ways they could not explain.